Latest pictures, recent pictures from Cairo of military vehicles there on the streets as well. Recently, we just heard on the, if I can say, diplomatic side, Hillary Clinton, US Secretary of State, speaking. In fact, let's ask Fawaz Gerges about that. He's been waiting for us over in London. Fawaz, what did you make of what Hillary Clinton had to say?
It's a very, very important statement. This is the strongest statement made by the Obama administration in the last week or so. If you read carefully the first three sentences, she said, "We are deeply concerned about the use of violence by the Egyptian authorities." She said, "We urge the Egyptian government to basically reform immediately." She said that it's the imperative of reform. We support the universal rights of the Egyptians. Obviously, the Obama administration knows very well basically how volatile the situation. The statement itself represents an escalation in the U.S. position. Obviously, the Obama administration has been trying to walk a fine line between supporting its strategic ally in the Middle East. Remember, Egypt is America's second strategic ally in the Middle East after Israel. It provides Egypt with about $1.5 billion a year in military aid. This particular statement shows how anxious the Obama administration is about the recent developments in Egypt, and basically that the situation might be spiraling out of control. The second point I want to make is that the introduction of the military into Alexandria and Suez changes the whole strategic and political situation in Egypt. This represents a major defeat for the security apparatus of the Mubarak regime. Remember what the Mubarak regime said yesterday. The security forces would crack down against any opposition. Basically, they have failed to do so. The power of the people has shown very clearly that now they control the streets in several cities. The introduction of the military is another concession by the Mubarak regime that the situation is escalating beyond its control. And I would argue now the situation and the final decision, the big decisions will likely be in the military hands, not in Mubarak hands. It's really an open, a fluid situation. Everything basically, in the next few days, we'll likely see when the dust settles on the battlefield what kind of a transitional administration might emerge in Egypt.
And it's interesting to see, and let me put this to Nabila Ramdani, who's still with us in London as well, when we talk about the army, the way it's being greeted at the moment. Our correspondent's telling them lots of thumbs up, the people are cheering, they're being viewed in a very positive light.
Well, I think what Professor Gerges said about the introduction of the army is absolutely fundamental. I think it's a further sign of weakness of keeping control over the situation. And the very fact that the regime had to go that far just shows that it's slightly capitulating in a way. We have seen how the regime tried to make concessions along as the day went by offering to negotiate, for example, the resignation of the Prime Minister, but also to offer to form a new government altogether. And of course, for the demonstrators, this is not convincing at all, and they want much deeper changes as far as the structure of the political system is concerned. Perhaps a few words about what Hillary Clinton has just said. It just shows how now the Obama administration is radically changing its tone. I mean, it has not exactly been supportive of the people in the past. It hasn't exactly been concerned about the very dire socio-economic circumstances of the Egyptian people. And it has, an interest in keeping tabs on what's going on in Egypt. Their main interest is to maintain stability, as they need Egypt as a crucial ally in a very strategic part of the Middle East. So we're seeing how now the Obama administration is radically changing its position, whereas and it's much more interested in the future of the Mubarak regime than it is in for example, the deposed Tunisian regime, because of Egypt's strategic place in the region.
Ibrahim Arafat in the studio with me. If the administration is radically changing its tone, as Nabila is saying there, doesn't the relationship between the countries, though, still put almost a barrier in the way? Because it's such an important ally, you're not going to get the US jumping that and saying, stop this right now, you are 100% in the wrong, as I think a lot of Egyptian people would want the US to do right now.
I think, the calculation of the Egyptian people, is definitely different from the calculation of the American administration. The Egyptian people and the Arab, people in general, hoped that the United States would assist their liberation or the request for liberation, for political emancipation for a long time. But today, I think America has to balance its own strategic interest with its obligation to respect the will of the people. This is not going to be easy, given the complexity of the Arab-Israeli conflict, which is going to appear later on as one of the decisive factors in developing the American strategy towards the democratic revolution that's going on now in the Arab world. So,
Karen.
I think all parties involved now in the Egyptian drama, are just playing wait-and-see approach. They have started, like the American administration, they have started to put the rudimentary elements of their new strategy, but this strategy is not full-fledged yet.
Ibrahim, thank you for your thoughts on that. That's the political side of things, since we have in the last 10 minutes or so heard from the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton saying she's deeply concerned, calling for restraint, or calling for the government in Egypt to restrain its security forces.